Chapter 6 Perpetual Motion. Wait, wait! Beelzebub interrupted the captain. This, what you have just told us, must surely be just that short-lived idea which the strange three-brained beings breeding on the planet Earth called perpetual motion, and on account of which at one period a great many of them there went quite, as they themselves say, mad, and many even perished entirely. It once happened there, on that ill-fated planet, that somebody, in some way or another, got into his head the, as they say, crazy notion that he could make a mechanism that would run forever without requiring any material from outside. This notion so took everybody's fancy that most of the queer fellows of that peculiar planet began thinking about it and trying to realize this miracle in practice. How many of them paid for this short-lived idea with all the material and spiritual welfare which they had previously with great difficulty acquired. For one reason or another, they were all quite determined to invent what in their opinion was a simple matter. External circumstances permitting, many took up the invention of this perpetual motion without any inner data for such work, some from reliance upon their knowledge, others upon luck, but most of them just from their already complete psychopathy. In short, the invention of perpetual motion was, as they say, the rage, and every crank felt obliged to be interested in this question. I was once in one of the towns there where models of every kind and innumerable descriptions of proposed mechanism for this perpetual motion were assembled. What wasn't there? What ingenious and complicated machines did I not see? In any single one of these mechanisms I saw there must have been more ideas and wiseacrings than in all the laws of world creation and world existence. I noted at the time that in these innumerable models and descriptions of proposed mechanisms, the idea of using what is called the force of weight predominated, and the idea of employing the force of weight they explained thus. A very complicated mechanism was to lift some weight, and this latter was then to fall, and by its fall set the whole mechanism in motion, which motion would again lift the weight, and so on, and so on. The result of it all was that thousands were shut up in lunatic asylums. Thousands more, having made this idea their dream, either began to fail altogether to fulfill even those being duties of theirs which had somehow or other, in the course of many years, been established there, or to fulfill them in such a way as couldn't be worse. I don't know how it would all have ended if some quite demented being there, with one foot already in the grave, such a one as they themselves call an old dotard, and who had previously somehow acquired a certain authority, had not proved by calculations known only to himself that it was absolutely impossible to invent perpetual motion. Now, after your explanation, I can well understand how the cylinder of the system of Archangel Haraton works. It is the very thing of which these unfortunates there dreamt. Indeed, of the cylinder of the system of the Archangel Haraton, it can safely be said that, with atmosphere alone given, it will work perpetually without needing the expenditure of any outside materials. And since the world without planets, and hence without atmospheres, cannot exist, then it follows that as long as the world exists and, in consequence, atmospheres, the cylinder barrels invented by the great Archangel Harriton will always work. Now, just one question occurs to me about the material from which this cylinder barrel is made. I wish very much, my dear Captain, that you would roughly tell me what materials it is made of and how long they can last, requested Beelzebub. To this question of Beelzebub's, the captain replied as follows. Although the cylinder barrel does not last forever, it can certainly last a very long time. Its chief part is made of amber, with platinum hoops, and the interior panels of the walls are made of anthracite, copper, and ivory, and a very strong mastic, unaffectable either by 1. Paischakir, or by 2. Tainolair, or by 3. Saliakooriapa. Footnote 1. Cold, 2. Heat, and 3. Water. Or even by the radiations of cosmic concentrations. But the other parts, the captain continued, both the exterior levers and the cogwheels must certainly be renewed from time to time, for though they are made of the strongest metal, yet long use will wear them out. And as for the body of the ship itself, its long existence can certainly not be guaranteed. The captain intended to say still more, but at that moment a sound like the vibrations of a long minor chord of a far-off orchestra of wind instruments resounded through the ship. With an apology, the captain rose to leave, explaining as he did so that he must be needed on very important business, since everybody knew that he was with his Right Reverence, and would not venture to trouble the ears of his Right Reverence for anything trifling. Chapter 7. Becoming aware of genuine being duty. After the captain had gone, Beelzebub glanced at his grandson and, noticing his unusual state, asked him solicitously and with some anxiety, "What is the matter, my dear boy? What are you thinking so deeply about?" Looking up at his grandfather with eyes full of sorrow, Hassan said thoughtfully, "I don't know what is the matter with me, my dear grandfather, but your talk with the captain of the ship has brought me to some exceedingly melancholy thoughts. Things of which have never before thought are now a thinking in me. Thanks to your talk, it has gradually become very clear to my consciousness that in the universe of our endlessness, everything has not always been such as I now see and understand. Only now have I come very clearly to understand that everything we have at the present time, and everything we use, in a word, all the contemporary amenities and everything necessary for our comfort and welfare, have not always existed and did not make their appearance so easily. It seems that certain beings in the past have during very long periods labored and suffered very much for this, and endured a great deal which perhaps they even need not have endured. They labored and suffered only in order that we might now have all this and use it for our welfare. And all this they did, either consciously or unconsciously, just for us, that is to say, for beings quite unknown and entirely indifferent to them. And now, not only do we not thank them, but we do not even know a thing about them, but take it all as in the natural order, and neither ponder nor trouble ourselves about this question at all. I, for instance, have already existed so many years in the universe. Yet the thought has never even entered my head that perhaps there was a time when everything I see and have did not exist, and that everything was not born with me like my nose. And so, my dear and kind grandfather, now that owing to your conversation with the captain, I have gradually, with all my presence, become aware of all this, there has arisen in me, side by side with this, the need to make clear to my reason why I personally have all the comforts which I now use and what obligations I am under for them. It is just because of this that at the present moment there proceeds in me a process of remorse. Having said this, Hassan drooped his head and became silent, and Beelzebub, looking at him affectionately, began to speak as follows. I advise you, my dear Hassan, not to put such questions to yourself yet. Do not be impatient. Only when that period of your existence arrives, which is proper for your becoming aware of such essence questions, and you actively meditate about them, will you understand what you must do in return. Your present age does not yet oblige you to pay for your existence. The time of your present age is not given you in which to pay for your existence, but for preparing yourself for the future, for the obligations becoming to a responsible three-brained being. So, in the meantime, exist as you exist. Only do not forget one thing, namely, at your age it is indispensably necessary that every day, at sunrise, while watching the reflection of its splendor, you bring about a contact between your consciousness and the various unconscious parts of your general presence. Try to make this state last and to convince the unconscious parts, not as if they were conscious, that if they hinder your general functioning, they, in the period of your responsible age, not only cannot fulfill the good that befits them, but your general presence of which they are part, will not be able to be a good servant of our common endless Creator, and by that will not even be worthy to pay for your arising and existence. I repeat once more, my dear boy, try in the meantime not to think about these questions, which at your age it is still early for you to think about. Everything in its proper time. Now, ask me to tell you whatever you wish and I will do so. As the captain has not yet returned, he must be occupied there with his duties and will not be coming back so soon.